let's imagine like being a child who falls asleep to the sound of bomb. Years later, the war is over, but the effects still remain. And what if they live on, not in the landscape, but in people's mind, especially in how they see violence within family? So my research asks, like, can growing up in the wartime make people more accepting domestic violence later in life? So to answer this, I turn to the Vietnamese War, one of the most devastating like conflicts in the 20th century. Then to the left hand side, you can see the map, like, which is the combination of the intensity of the war and the length and or the duration of the time that the woman's exposed to the bombing. Yep. And then I combine two data sets. One is the bombing data set, and the second is like the woman's attitude toward intimate partner violence across 20,000 women in 440 districts. And by doing so, so using this linked data set, I apply the different approach and then to uncover the relationship. Then in this study, I compare between the group of women who exposed to the bombing and with those who did not. And by doing so, I can isolate the long-term effect of exposure to the bombing with the attitude of women toward intimate partner violence. Here is what I find. Women who live in the bombing area and with the longer duration of exposure to the war are more likely to accept intimate partner violence 30 years later. Yeah, and for example, the women who are exposed to the bombing during their childhood are more likely to accept, like, the husband can hit wife when the wife argue, neglect children, or refuse to have sex. So why does this happen? The very important answer is education. Yeah, you know, like girls who grew up in the bombing area, they're less likely to stay in school. Yeah, you know, like limited education is linked to the greater acceptance of domestic violence later in life. But these findings go beyond Vietnam. Exposure to large scale of shock, like can shape attitude toward domestic violence. In today's world, this evidence reminds us that prevention must start early. And by investing in girl education and social support, we can strengthen capacity, resilience, and agency. So the message is clear. The effects of war persist long after the actual conflict has ended. Through education, we can turn those scars into strength.